refinery for that matter. Let me talk straight to this, Mr. Chairman. It's a perfect opportunity also. Mr. Chairman, we have done nothing to sabotage any domestic refinery. Any one of them. There are many of them. Some of them are small scale. Mr. Chairman, but there's a law that guides everything we are doing. Mr. Chairman, the law is clear. My colleague from NPRC is here. There's domestic crude oil supply obligation. Yes, what it is saying is that process it locally, provide for local refinery, absolutely correct. But the law also said that there must be a willing buyer and a willing seller. It didn't say anything else. And perhaps the only way it cannot be so is for this National Assembly to change the law. And I would not recommend this. Mr. Chairman, secondly, and more importantly, NNPC has nothing to do with imports of products that are substandard. It is very clear, Mr. Chairman, there are rules, there are regulators. We follow the rules. Nobody will bring product into this country that doesn't make specifications. If it does happen, it's crime. It couldn't have passed through any regulatory institution. It is impossible. We all know what happens. Smuggling does take place. And I'm happy that the Customs Service is here. No one can deny that smuggling takes place across our border. But for PMS and every other commodity that you can think of, this is real. Mr. Chairman, when the details come, we will tell you what we know. Mr. Chairman, I suggest also that it should be set live so that everybody will hear what is going on in the industry. And perhaps responding to our Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of Energy, we are engaged. Mr. Chairman, today, this country is producing about 1.65 million barrels today, as of today. We have a clear target and a pathway, which is not just an NNPC-driven process, Mr. Chairman. You must put money before you can make money in the oil and gas industry. You must invest. You must have confidence of banks, and you must have confidence of investors. Today, Mr. Chairman, this National Assembly, both the House of Representatives and the Senate, have set several committees to look at local refining, to look at crude oil theft, vandalism. It is very, very clear that until we address this, no one is going to put his money into the upstream. And that's why NNPC took it headlong. And got the support of Mr. President. Clearly, Mr. President understands that doing things different today, which is showing up. And I can share with you, Mr. Chairman, just a month and a half ago, we're actually down to almost 1.4 million barrels per day. It's simply an infrastructure unavailability issue associated with acts of vandals and oil thieves. Mr. Chairman, you will agree that NNPC is not a security organization. But yet, we got the support of Mr. President to set up an accelerated process of intervention. And it is paying off. You have to restore that confidence before you can talk about growth. Let me share something with you, Mr. Chairman. In the year 2020, during the COVID, Mr. Chairman, in one day, our production, without doing anything, we hit 2.47 million barrels per day, 17th of April, to be very specific, Mr. Chairman. And what happens? The thieves and the bandits went to sleep. Because there's nowhere to take it to. The market went to sleep. And we now know that without doing anything, we have such capacity. But you can't achieve this until you are able to arrest the situation that is on ground. And I'm happy that this investigation will also bring back part of the reports, I'm sure, of previous Senate committee reports that we have seen, Mr. Chairman. And at the right time, we'll give you all the details. We'll take you through it. You will see the challenges that we are dealing with. That's not about NNPC Limited. It is beyond NNPC. But we also need your help. And I can assure you, Mr. Chairman, we will cooperate with you, with this committee, and the inclusion of this House of Representatives, so that we'll address fundamental issues in the industry that are still hanging. That may not even be within the remit of any one institution that is invited for this gathering, Mr. Chairman. It needs a collective response, Mr. Chairman. And I assure you, Mr. Chairman, the NNPC Limited and our board of directors and our shareholders are faithful, loyal to this country. We do not lie to this country. And we do nothing to sabotage the economic interests of this country. As a matter of fact, NNPC is the economic interest of this country. And we understand this very, very perfectly. Just also by the provisions of the law, and also, and I can share this with you, for me and my colleagues in the NNPC, even by conviction of faith, Mr. Chairman, we will do nothing. We believe there's eternal accountability, Mr. Chairman. Even if you don't unravel what is happening, we know that God knows. And that God will hold us accountable. And we're after no one. We are persecuting nobody. We are not criminals. We are not thieves.
Yeah, greetings to everyone. Of course, that is the CEO of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited in Nigeria. He came out a few days ago. He appeared before the Senate ad hoc committee of the Nigerian Senate, of course, to answer to the problems. Actually, the fact that he appeared before the Nigerian Senate committee, it shows that Dangote is actually, getting somewhere within the Nigerian sector, the Nigerian petroleum sector. And the fact that he launched, a refinery, a lot of players, of course, now are coming out, and especially those ones with the wrong motives of sabotaging not only Nigeria's interests, but the interests of the African continent, because these infrastructure, they are beneficial for all the African continent. Now, what we are understanding is that those interests, those people whose interests are being touched currently have come out to defend themselves. Now, Dangote's approach has gone all the way to the Senate and the House of Representatives, and he's actually taking on these elements, these groups of people that are in the government and have been sabotaging, the country, and that means importing a lot of bad products within the country, which, of course, they took even some of the products from the petrol stations when Dangote was hosting the Speaker of the House of Representatives. They took some of the petroleum products, and actually from one of the multinationals, and that multinational is Total Energy, which is from France. Now, all this fight which Dangote has engaged in has led, to this point where we are hearing the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation or National Petroleum Company appearing before the Senate committee to defend himself. And he touched a lot of things, actually. Some of them, they make sense. Some of them really, they don't make sense. And in some way, actually, you can say that he implicated himself and the president, for that matter, because he came and said that the president has been supportive of the NNPC in its operation. All right. And this shows that he is working together with the president, with the Nigerian president. In one of our videos, which we did, we showed how President Tinubu himself has interest in the Nigerian oil sector, because one of his cousins is is the CEO of one of Wando Petroleum in Nigeria, which company is also importing a lot of products into Nigeria as a country. Now, he mentioned that the president is in support of him, and now he's saying that they are following the law. Now, what we should know is that there's a difference between the law and following the law. All right. So these people, to some extent, they manipulate the law. But even with that, Dangote never mentioned that he is accusing the NNPC. He just mentioned that, the regulator. And of course, the regulator he's talking about is the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum, commission. That is basically the company that Dangote he is talking about that has been failing in enforcing its obligations. Now, news has come out that Dangote himself has been receiving the petroleum, and he has agreed that he has been receiving the crude oil, of course, from NNPC. But that crude oil is not what they agreed. It's not what is agreed for the Dangote oil refinery to receive. They are receiving less than 60%. They are just receiving 60% of what they are supposed to receive, from the NNPC. And that is the challenge. Now, the CEO of NNPC came out to defend himself. regarding what is happening in this particular situation, and he said they are following the law. But the other thing which he said that does not really make sense is the fact that he said that if you establish a refinery, you should look for your own raw materials. That is what he's saying. That is number one, which really does not make sense due to the fact that Dangote mentioned that the refinery was designed to run on Nigerian crude, not on Venezuelan crude, not on Russian crude. It was designed specifically to run on Nigerian crude. And this is a national asset. Now, if someone speaks like this, and says that if you establish a business, you should look for your own raw materials and you should look for your own market. All right. So it looks like now, in this sense, it looks like these people who are representing the government, they don't care about the interests of the people as a country. And therefore, they're interested in exporting the resources of the country. They don't care about the country itself and refining and adding value to the resources. Yet this is what Dangote has always said. Now it shows you that the people running our governments in the African continent, in some case, or to a larger extent, you can conclude that they don't know what they are doing. All right. So we are supposed to be patriotic as citizens. As citizens, we are supposed to be patriotic, and of course, we should teach to our children and grandchildren about this patriotism that we are pushing forward and for the development of the country. Now, like what one of the CEOs of the Nigerian upstream, petroleum regulation commission said that it would be monopoly for Dangote to run himself, to run alone in the country. But of course, there is other refineries in the country. Even the state has about 4 refineries now. But for him to say that to justify the continued importation of resources, which are already available within the country, while they continue to send out the crude to import, of course, the dirty oil, while they continue to export the good crude oil from the country. It shows you a group of people who do not understand what patriotism is, and people who do not have correct judgment, all right, when it regards, the development of the country, that they are rather looking out for their own interests. And, of course, the international oil companies, which Dangote mentioned. And of course, this becomes very unfortunate. So in this defense of himself, the CEO of NNPC, which is the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation or Company Limited, he mentioned all these things, which some of them make sense, some of them don't make sense, in line with building, a country and being patriotic, to the African continent that we want. We are talking about adding value, then it should be adding value. If an opportunity for adding value rises, then we should come up and support that opportunity. But they are instead fighting against that opportunity. Of course, Dangote also came out and responded to this speech, because it was like he's saying that the NNPC is not attacking anyone in the country. The NNPC is not attacking Dangote. It's not attacking any refinery. It's not undermining any interests, of the country, any economic interests of the country. And yet we see that the country is importing more than $20 billion of refined products into Nigeria every year, every single year. Now, if Dangote oil refinery has come out to plug that gap, why would this not be a sabotage if he's not being helped by everyone who's supposed to help, especially if that person is operating within the state enterprise, the public enterprises? Because if you go on the streets in Nigeria and of course all over the West African region, everyone is excited. All the public is excited about the Dangote oil refinery. But why is it that the people who are directly running the institutions that are supposed to protect Dangote are sabotaging these interests and of course justifying it in one way or the other? So this is what of course Dangote is talking about. Let me share what Dangote came out and said regarding this particular issue, when this man was saying that he is not a thief. They are not thieves, they are not saboteurs, they are not sabotaging anyone's interests. Let me say what Dangote said. let me come in here so that we can see what Dangote said. He came out, his company came out and issued, of course, a statement regarding this particular issue. And in it, of course, what Dangote said is that he is not attacking anyone, but rather he is saying that they should implement the law, because they are saying that they are enforcing the law. So they should go ahead and implement the law, which they are claiming that they are following. Let me share it here so that we can all be able to see it, of course. Now, all right, so let me look at it here. Let me look at the window. Where is Dangote? All right, he's here. All right, Dangote is here now. We're gonna share him and what he said regarding this situation. Okay. H. Now, this is what Dangote said, of course. Now, Dangote came out to say that our attention has been drawn to media reports alleging that the Dangote oil refinery has backtracked by acknowledging that the NNPC supplied about 60% of the 50 million barrels we lifted. To clarify, we have never accused the NNPC for not supplying us with crude. Our concern has always been that the NUPRC, which is the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, is pushing, but the international oil companies are not following the instructions to enforce the domestic crude supply obligation and ensure that we receive our full crude requirements from NNPC and the international oil companies. And of course, when we go back to Dangote's comments, both which comments he made when he was in Barbados, during the Africa Import and Export Bank annual general meetings, and also when he was in Kigali at the Africa CEO Forum. This is the same thing. He said that there is mafias within the continent, and of course within Nigeria, and also the international oil companies. He mentioned this clearly. He never mentioned out which particular companies, apart from only one time which we had him after the CEO of the Nigerian upstream and downstream regulatory company. He came out, regulatory commission. He came out and attacked Dangote and said they are producing substandard fuels. This is what even led to Dangote taking all the fuels, including the ones they took from petrol stations like Total, and taking samples of those fuels and testing them in his lab, and even showing the lab on television station. And the lab is hugely equipped. Now he asked, where is the regulator's laboratory? And they have never shown that laboratory which the regulator is using. And of course, we see that the CEO of the CEO of NNPC also came out to say that the fuels they are bringing into the country are clean. That is what he said, and it is therefore the people who are smuggling the fuels into the country that are bringing dirty fuels. But remember, we said that the fuel which Dangote tested, it came from Total. Total is a multinational company. So this then is somehow opposite to what this man is saying, because he's saying that they are bringing in good fuel from outside, but the smugglers are the ones who are bringing in. So should we say and conclude that Total petrol station, which is a multinational from France, a huge multinational worth billions, more than $180 billion. I think it is up to even, its market capitalization is up to $200 billion. Should we say that Total is one of those who are bringing the dirty fuels into Nigeria? So this is where it becomes really difficult to believe him. And of course, he's claiming that it's the people who are stealing the crude fuel. So if he says that it's the citizens of the country who are stealing the crude oil, also this doesn't really hold up. All right, it doesn't really hold up to a certain extent. If they are stealing, then it is the people who are in the government themselves. So this is where also his defense, in some way becomes, of course, questionable and unbelievable. And of course, it is ridiculous. Now let us go back to Dangote and see what he's saying. What Dangote is saying for September. Actually, he gave even more light to what is happening. He said in September our requirement is 15 cargoes, for example. All right, of which the NNPC has allocated 6. So if it has allocated 6 now, it means that it is remaining 9 cargoes, right? They need 15 cargoes. The NNPC has supplied only 6 cargoes. So what he's saying that is that despite us appealing to the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, for their intervention, and their intervention, we have been unable to secure the remaining cargoes. When we approached the international oil companies producing in Nigeria, they redirected us to their international trading arms or responded that their cargoes were committed. Now, this is the problem that is happening here in Nigeria. This is the problem that is happening in Nigeria. What is happening is this, that Dangote is trying to point out. The country has shown within the law that the local refiners should first be satisfied before selling, all right, before selling the crude oil to outside countries. This is what Dangote is saying. But when Dangote wants to take the oil that he's supposed to take, the crude oil that he's supposed to take, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company, and the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, they say that they are implementing that process. Okay, but Dangote is not receiving the crude oil he needs. This is what we are reading from what Dangote is saying. Now, these two organizations, which are owned by the government, are supposed to force the the international oil companies, which is the IOCs. They are supposed to force them to give the crude oil to Dangote. But these international oil companies like Shell, ExxonMobil, and ExxonMobil, Shell, and we have we have ExxonMobil, we have Shell, we have Chevron. All of them are operating in Nigeria. They are not respecting the government. That is what it looks like. Now, what Dangote is saying, that the government must force these companies to give the oil. And therefore, this is what Dangote meant when he said that the mafias inside are collaborating with the so-called international oil companies. Because these international oil companies, they have almost conquered the Nigerian government. They have taken over the Nigerian government. They do whatever they want within the country. Okay, so this is what is really disturbing the oil company. And of course, this has to do with neocolonialism. Because remember that these oil companies, these huge oil companies like Chevron, which are worth more than $300 billion, ExxonMobil, more than $200 billion, and Shell, of course, more than $200 billion, all of them, they are huge corporations which are not a joke. They have the backing of the countries where they come from. And that is the trick now. That is the problem, and that is the challenge. So you have to have a very strong government. You have to have an extremely strong government in a country for you to force these corporations, to follow the law, to give up the oil. Okay, and this is what actually even some of the people in Nigeria are not understanding, that we have a problem of neocolonialism here, which neocolonialism has taken over the most important resource in the country and has made or has bought out the government, which represents the people, which is elected by the people, to the point that the government, which represents the people, has become impotent. It cannot act. The government is now impotent, that it cannot act on the interest, on the interest of its own people, due to the fear it has, of these governments, of these companies, or the governments where these companies come from. Because the two companies companies which have, these companies which have been exploiting Nigeria hugely, for example, Chevron and ExxonMobil, they come from very powerful countries. They come from the United States. All right. Now you have Shell. It comes from Britain and Dutch. Of course, there's a Dutch army there. That's why it's called Royal Dutch Shell. These are hugely powerful countries and imperialistic countries. Of course, they are colonial countries. Now, they have almost taken over the Nigerian government, and the interests of the people have been pushed on the side. And this is what we are now experiencing in Nigeria. So Dangote will have to put up a very strong fight. But for now, of course, he's succeeding. We can see that he's succeeding, that, a lot of, attention now has been drawn to the Nigerian petroleum industry, even from outside of Nigeria, across the continent. Everyone now is paying attention to the Nigerian petroleum industry and the government. And the government, of course, because the government has become impotent, that it cannot, protect the interests of the African people in Nigeria. So this is what we are seeing, and of course, the CEO of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited comes out to defend himself. Of course, in all kinds of ways, he comes out to defend himself. He says that the problem is bigger than him, but of course, again, he comes up with some illogicalities, some illogical allegations, which he says that it is the people, is the citizens who are sabotaging the infrastructure. So if the country has a military, it has laws, the country should be able to protect its own infrastructure. This is what, what I believe. But what do you think? What do you think is the problem with the Nigerian, petroleum industry? And of course, Nigeria as a country itself. And if Nigeria has been taken over by neo-colonial forces, what do you think we should do as Africans to help the Nigerian people? Please put that in the comment section. Put your suggestions in the comment section. I will respond to these myself. We have been responding to every comment together with Mahlet. So put your suggestions. What do you think that we should do to help the Nigerian people in the challenges that they are facing through? And of course, we have seen the demonstrations ongoing right now, which all, are about this situation, the fact that there's bad governance. But what we don't know, or what many people don't know, that even this bad governance is being enabled from outside, is being enabled from countries like the United States, is being enabled by these corporations which do not allow the existing government in those countries, in these countries which have been colonized, who have been taken over. We can only say that we are living in colonies because our resources have been taken over. Now, these neo-colonial corporations are not allowing the colonial countries, which they, the colonized countries in which they are, to take care of their own people, because they have the backing of their colonial countries like the United States and of course the European countries where they come from. So this is a challenge. How do we attend to these challenges? Please put your suggestions in the comment section and we will read it and we'll discuss it, going forward. What do you think we should do about it as Africans? Because the solution, personally, I believe that the solution is for us to unify Africa under one government. We have to unify Africa under one government and then remove all this chaos so that we have one government which takes care of all our interests, including mineral resources, so that our resources, people will not just come into the continent and take resources how they want. I believe, for me, that is the the solution that we have, and of course that's the solution our forefathers left us. Our forefathers like Marcus Garvey, our forefathers like Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. These are the solutions which they left us. But somewhere along the line, our ruling elite, they diverted from that solution which our forefathers like George Padmore, Kwame Nkrumah, Marcus Garvey, and Malcolm X. All these, this is the solution they gave us. We have to unify and build a strong Africa together under one government so that we can have one representative. We have to have one representative as Africans in every way. In every way, on the international stage, we have to have a single meter so that we can protect our assets even from these external predators, because mostly the exploitation is coming from external. If you look at it, as it has been published by the United Nations report on illicit financial outflow out of Africa. Africa is losing close to $100 billion. Now, how do we stop this looting if we are not unified as a continent under one government? So I believe that this is the solution. But what do you think? What do you think in addition to what I think myself? Or, apart from what I think myself, what do you think? How do we eliminate these weaknesses that we have on the continent? Put that in the comment section, please, and let us have a discussion on this. This is very important for us as Africans. Let me take some water. This is very important for us as Africans to have a solid discussion on this. We saw the other day, Indians now are taking over ports in East Africa. They are taking over airports. We are seeing Indians have come into Ghana now. They are building, their own gold refineries. Where are our refineries as Africans? Where are our gold refineries? Where are our airports? Are we incapable of managing our own resources, our airports and our ports? Are we incapable of managing our own dams? We saw Total Energies taking over a dam in Uganda. Now, these are critical issues. Where are our interests? Are we incapable of managing our affairs? And what should we do about it to remedy this weakness? Because all these, they're taking advantage of us as Africans because of the weakness that we have in the continent. This is the reason. And that, weakness, I believe, like what our ancestors believe, must be eliminated by putting together a united, African state. And that is the solution. For me, this is what I believe. But what do you believe? Put your comments down there in the section, in the comment section. Put your suggestions down in the comment section, and we'll continue this discussion from there. My name is Kwame Gonza, and this is Connect Africa. Once again, please support the channel, like the channel, subscribe to the channel if you are new to the channel, and like the video and share it with other people. We ask you to do that so that we can grow together, so that we can participate together in the coming revolution. You have seen tremendous changes that are happening across the globe. So we all need to participate in that process of transforming the African continent. Thank you so much once again. My name is Kwame Gonza, and I will see you next time.